All right, you're listening to 88.3 WXOU with our exclusive WXOU Underground interview with JonPaul Wallace, who will be performing here on our YouTube channel tomorrow. And so definitely stay tuned for that. But and also his guitarist Ryan as well. And so just thought we could kind of talk a little bit about your career leading up to this point. And first of all. Your first performance that kind of like got big, and I would say probably boosted your career. I don't know if you agree with me, but I assume you probably do. Is your high school graduation singing 7 years?
Yeah.
So kind of tell me what kind of led up to that and how the aftermath of seeing that kind of go viral.
Yeah.
How that led to where you are today.
Yeah. So 7 years, that was a pretty insane experience. But that was one thing that was like totally random and completely unplanned. And I wrote the song. I was doing a lot of covers on Twitter and stuff at that time, and on YouTube and all that stuff, trying to pull the Shawn Mendes and and the Justin Bieber avenue. That but I was doing a ton of covers, and I fell in love with 7 years as soon as I heard it, the original Lucas Graham version, and a lot of people suggested it to me. So I started working through it, and I remember I was like, I should change some of these lyrics because I was only 17, and it says once I was 20 years old. And I was like, I don't know if, like, at that time, I was like, I can't say that. I'm not 20. It doesn't make sense. So I'll never forget, I was in the shower, and I was like, what I should do about graduation? It was like 4 months away. And, me and all my friends, we were all having our last football games and last everything, all the senior year feels. So I was like, I should make it about graduation, got out of the shower, and just sat down at the piano and literally pumped the whole thing out in like an hour. It was crazy. And then never edited it, like first draft, it was just done. And so I made an appointment with the student council, which was like a lot of my peers, and then a teacher who like oversaw it, to ask to sing it I was actually trying to sing it at an assembly, the student goodbye assembly at our school. And they loved it. They ended up making it our class song, which is pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I performed it at the assembly, and that was like, I'll never forget, like that to me was way more nerve wracking than the graduation, because it was my whole school.
Right.
And as soon as I started and I was playing piano for the assembly, the whole room, like, I think it was like 1,600 kids or something like that, dead silent, like could hear a pin drop. And I never like forget, like I was literally like shaking, like my breath was shaky and stuff, and like my hands were like playing. But yeah, that was an awesome experience. And then after that, I was like, I should try to sing this at graduation. And so I literally just pestered the principal like twice a day. And I was like, so about that graduation performance. And then finally, like 3 days before, he's like, all right, fine, you can do it. And I was like, yes. So, and then after the fact, I didn't even know that video existed. My parents took a really crappy video of the performance, and that was the only thing I knew that existed of it. So I was kind of like done with it. And then I went up north on a little like graduation, like post-graduation getaway, like 2 days after graduation. And then while I was up there, someone called me and was like, hey, like, do you know like this like graduation videos on YouTube? And it's like getting all these views, and like Mojo in the Morning posted it and all this stuff. I was like, I've literally zero clue what you're talking about. And so they like sent me a link, and then it was just off to the races from there. It was just totally like out of shock. And I just rode the wave that whole year. It was really fun.
Yeah. And so you were writing songs before that performance as well. Is that correct? Or
I was very, very new to songwriting. Like most of my stuff was covers. But that was definitely a really early on song. I mean, I wrote songs when I was little, but really like into serious songwriting, that was one of the first. Yeah.
So is that kind of what you wanted to do, like kind of once you got into college and graduated from that? Is that kind of the path that you thought you were going to be on? Yeah.
So, I mean, even before then, like, I was kind of all in on music. Like I knew I wanted to be an artist, and at that time, like I actually came to OU, which I definitely don't regret because that was an awesome experience. But yeah, at that time it was like I had a good scholarship to come here. So I was like, you know what, might as well go to college, get some more experience. I knew I wasn't ready as an artist. I was not ready as a songwriter and not ready as a performer or anything to be, to go all in on that quite yet. So I was like, I need some time to kind of, find myself and get out there and in the world a little bit more. So came to OU and graduated with finance and marketing degree. But I think the whole time I really was like, I'm really not going to use this degree. Like it's good information to know and everything, but I was like, I knew like pretty much all the way through, there was no question I was doing music.
Yeah. And Ryan, kind of also getting your, with Anthony, your drummer as well, kind of getting that band together, when did that kind of start happening? Was that kind of after you first started writing a couple songs and releasing some stuff, or did it kind of happen in conjunction with everything starting up?
Yeah, so I didn't meet Ryan. I think it was until like my second year of college. It was probably like 2017, something like that.
Yeah.
But Ryan went to DIME, the Detroit Institute of Music Education, which is now partnered with OU. So
Oh, really?
yeah, that's weird. Yeah, but so Ryan went to DIME and they had like a showcase. And at that time, I was looking for instrumentalists to kind of start performing with. I'd always performed by myself, and so I was kind of looking to grow that a little bit and have like a more of a band setup to perform my originals with. And so I just went to that event, and he was actually performing his original, right?
Yeah, yep. I had recorded a tune with Dime. It was called Little Boy Blue, and we did like a little album showcase. So I had a little bit of a solo set there.
Yeah, and I still bop to that dude. I literally I'll never forget. He was the frontman. He still fronts a band.
Yeah.
Now, so he's crazy talented. But yeah, he was like jamming up there. He was like shredding. I was like, I gotta know who that guy is. Like whatever happens today, I need to know who that guy is. So after the whole thing was over, I just went up to him. I was like, hey man, like I'm a singer, blah blah blah. And then we ended up connecting on a show that I had a while back. And he came over and we just jammed for a bit, and he learned the set, and yeah, we've been pretty much playing together ever since. So it's yeah, it was cool. And then Anthony, who had to run, he's actually got another gig tonight, but he was introduced by he's performed with my sister quite a bit. Rocky Wallace is another artist, so he's performed with her quite a bit. And then he was introduced to us by Frankie Jason Turner, who's like, I co-write a lot of stuff with him. He knows Anthony, so that's how I got involved with him. But Anthony and I only started really playing together after everything started to open up in late 2021. So this setup with us three is only a few months old, really, like 6-7 months old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when kind of your songwriting was kind of the, I want to say, what's kind of the way that you go about the process. That's the word. Thank you. Okay. The process that you go about songwriting.
Yeah, I mean, it's different every song. But most of the time it'll start off, my favorite songs, I should say, the best songs that I've written, start off with like a concept or a line, or like I always say, like I learned this from like a songwriting like class and online stuff that I've taken, but every song has like a character, and whoever's singing that song has to be a very three-dimensional character. It's like in a show, like even if you don't know, like even if you don't find out until later in the show, like where the person's from or whatever, like it all goes into who they are as a character from the get-go, whether you know it or not, so every song has that character. So usually it kind of starts with that. It'd either be like a catchy line, like Love's Not For Everyone just started as that line. And I was like, that's really, it's an interesting line to me. And I haven't really heard that in music too much. And so like, then I identified like the full character of who that was going to be and what, what they felt. And a lot of that was coinciding with, personal life stuff and everything like that. So usually the characters are based off me, but yeah. And then from there it usually moves into instrumentation from there. And sometimes it'll start with instrumentation and it'll spark something, but normally it's a concept first.
Yeah, and you actually transitioned very nicely into my next topic of that song, Love's Not For Everyone. Nice. That sounds like a very, kind of very personal, kind of very emotional song. So, I mean, if you're want to, kind of pull back the curtain about what kind of that song's really about.
Yeah, so that's one of those ones I don't talk too much about, like the inspiration necessarily, but the character, I guess you could say, in it is really like, to sum it up in like one line, is that like you are pessimistic that you will not feel again what you felt for somebody else, if that makes sense for anybody else. So the song lyrically takes you through a lot of different waves, but everything like first verse, chorus, and second verse and chorus is really all just like introspective and just kind of being downer and like almost accepting this, harsh reality. And then in the bridge is when it moves into the I just want to believe lines. And that's where you kind of get off into your delusion and into like, into you're not really accepting this reality quite yet, And then once it gets to the end, it's like, okay, but you're talking yourself back off the ledge and back into acceptance. But yeah.
Yeah, and kind of when writing a song that's kind of that emotional, is that kind of like a therapeutic process for you, or is it just kind of like, I'm just telling a story of my life?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends. Like at the time that I wrote Love's Not For Everyone, I was actually working really working towards an EP that I released back in the fall, which that EP, we intentionally made it super upbeat and energetic. Like we play a lot of the songs off the EP in our normal set. But that EP is just like the funnest music I've ever written, and it's just always super upbeat and energetic. And during that time, I actually went on like a solo trip to the Upper Peninsula, Michigan, and brought my recording gear and instruments, and just kind of locked myself in Airbnb for a few days to write. And I was working on the EP stuff, and all upbeat stuff. And then I wasn't super thrilled. Like nothing I wrote up there even made it on the EP. I was like, I kind of felt like it was a waste of time almost. And then on the way home on I-75, I wrote the bridge to Love's Not For Everyone, and that was like the first piece of it. And then I put it on the back burner because we were working on this upbeat music. And then one day we were on like a crazy deadline for that EP too. Like it had to be like done. And it was like every single day I was pressing that EP. And then one day I was like, I'm going to take a step back from the EP and just like work on this Love's Not For Everyone concept. And then I flushed out pretty much the whole song that day, like verses and everything just came out. And, but yeah, it was definitely like, in that time period, I was pretty happy, with everything in my life. Like I was really in a good place, but it just kind of, I almost feel like it flushed out the last bit of bad that was in me at that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it really just like, it put it all out there, and I've never been that vulnerable with a song, but it was finally just like the last pieces of, of letting things go and everything. So.
Yeah. And on Instagram, you've been really, streaming almost daily, just like kind of getting that grind in. And have you kind of noticed that that's really improved your kind of impact on like with your Spotify listens and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing I've really, really started pushing is doing reels, like the Instagram reels, that's no secret anymore that's how Instagram is like pushing everything nowadays. Yeah. So, all the filters and the funny, little stick your tongue out and do this and that, I'm all over that stuff. But a lot of, obviously a lot of my content's my music related too. But the reels have also been a fun way to show off my personality. But with the live streams, I try to do them, like before live music opened up, I was doing them like 2, 3, 4 times a week, just cause I found it to be, at first, like live stream terrified me so much. Like I was like, no one's going to get on, and it's just gonna be me looking at myself with nobody else. And it was just really nerve wracking. And I was like, I'm going to say something stupid and it's gonna be embarrassing. But once I got into rhythm, I found that I really, really like it. And, I've got the sound figured out where the audio quality is really good. But yeah, the live streams have really, more than anything, have just helped me show off like a different side, like obviously the music stuff, and everybody knows about the music stuff, but interacting with people in real time like that, for people who can't come to my shows, whether they live in different areas or stuff, I've noticed it less about, with the live stream, it's less been about like growth and more just about really connecting with the people that are already there, and people who have been strong supports that I've talked to over Instagram DM and have been around since the 7-year days and all that stuff. But now I can really like one-on-one, like if they want me to play a song, I'll play it for them, and we can joke together. And it's really just been really good for connecting with my audience that's already there.
Yeah. And kind of a question for both of you, kind of who are some of your favorite artists, and for songwriting or even soloing over songs, who inspires you?
I think for me, like I've, kind of started, I draw inspiration from a lot of places, and I kind of always have. But Stevie Wonder is always one that I go back to as like he's like the god.
Yeah.
Royalty.
Yeah, right.
Royalty.
Yeah. So he's been a big influence on me since high school. But more recently, like Frank Ocean and Tyler, the Creator, are two of like my biggest influences, especially, when I'm trying to get weird with it, with production and stuff like that. Those guys are like the kings of just doing stuff that's out there, and somehow making it mainstream. And so those guys are really cool. And like in the hip hop scene, J. Cole, and when his lyricism and his flow and everything is super cool to me. And I can pull a little bit from that into my stuff. And, but yeah, there's a lot. Billie Eilish, when she first came out, like with, her first album that I'm blanking on, but when the Party's Over and Ocean Eyes and stuff like that, that was a huge influence on me, in terms of like background vocal production and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd say that's for me.
I mean, my side of it's a little bit different, just in the sense that usually I'm trying to figure out what the instrumental flavor is going to kind of be in a tune. So a lot of our tunes like pretty centrally feature piano because JP is a great pianist. And Allman Brothers is a lot of kind of stuff that I'll steal from solos, and it doesn't quite sound like it would work. But when we put it in this context and slow things down and make the tone of a tune a little bit darker, there's kind of two sides of that group that I can take in a guitar sense. But just as far as writing lines and trying to figure out what the guitar sound behind, like the music JP's working on, I've used like the Arctic Monkeys and the Kooks, and a lot of that kind of early 2000s British band sound. And we tweak it continually because we're both playing guitars, and then there's Anthony on drums and other things that come in there. But those are kind of some of the artists that I try to take some sound from.
Yeah, and if you had just one piece of advice for someone who's trying to get into songwriting or wants to improve in being a better artist, what would that advice be?
I think from like a technical standpoint and like just the best ways to improve, at least in my experience, was to get into recording by yourself. Like learning like a recording software like Logic or Pro Tools or Cubase or something like that, or Fruity Loops, whatever it is. Like as a writer, even if you have no aspirations to be a producer, as a writer, that Sketchpad and having that at your fingertips and being able to experiment without spending a ton of money on studio time is so valuable. And then by the time you get in the studio, you're just finishing things and you've already have everything mapped out the way you want it. And it's so nice, and it saves so much money. Even though, it's an investment, of course, at first, but it saves you so much money in the long run. And to me, that's been the biggest thing that completely changed me as a writer and as an artist, for sure. And then on the more like, mental side of things, is just patience, I think. Like I've been at this a long time and still, trying to get where I need to go and learning so much every day. And there's definitely a big patience element to it.
I would say just be as open to learning from everyone that you come into as you can, because like I was very insignificant in all manners of the things we've spoken to about before I met JP and Rocky and Anthony, and then as those rehearsals even just continue, you get better just from listening and becoming friends with those people. So that would be my small bit of advice.
Yeah, well, that's all I have for you. I mean, if you want to quickly plug whatever you want for last little bit here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So just shoot me a follow on everything that there's stuff on the internet: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and then streaming platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, wherever you find stuff on the internet, I'm generally there. So it's just at JonPaul Wallace, JonPaulWallace, and then Facebook's JonPaul Wallace Official. And then you got music pages.
Yeah, I have it's at Ryan Haley Guitar, but check out JP, come to our shows, watch us shred.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what it's really about.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, listeners, please be sure to tune in tomorrow for JonPaul Wallace's WXOU Underground performance. Breaking a little bit of continuity here, but we've already done it, and it was great. I absolutely loved it. But so definitely do that, and be sure to follow us on our socials as well, at WXOU on Instagram and Facebook, and at WXOU Radio for Twitter, and WXOU.org for our new website that Andrew made for us.
Let's go.
But yeah, thank you so much, JonPaul and Ryan, for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you guys.
For sure.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I've been Logan Pizzurro, and remember, don't let your dreams fly too far away from you. All right.
Let's do this thing.
Yeah.